So we're here on 5th Avenue between Ivy and Juniper in Bankers Hill.
Chris Kluth is active transportation manager at SANDAG, the Regional Transportation Planning Agency.
A few years ago, the city converted one of the travel lanes here to a buffered bike lane, which is very nice. So there are two big buffers there.
Thanks to SANDAG, the bike lane here on 5th Avenue is scheduled for another upgrade. Cyclists will soon have a physical barrier, like this one in St. Petersburg, Florida, protecting them from moving cars. Research shows this kind of bike lane, called a cycle track, does a much better job at attracting riders than just paint on the ground. The bike counter installed here under these diamonds on the pavement can help confirm that.
That is our goal in the long term, to be able to help us figure out, where projects should go, what kind of return did we get on, this kind of investment.
This is just one of 54 bike and pedestrian counters purchased by the County Health and Human Services Agency in 2012. They're installed throughout the county, from Imperial Beach to Oceanside. At the time, the system was praised as one of the biggest in the country, capable of giving public officials valuable data on how many people are biking and walking and where.
It's really interesting data, and just having a snapshot of this data in this format helps us to validate it.
Sherry Ryan is an SDSU professor and consultant who worked on the county's bike counter program.
So we had partial data in June and then July.
She's showing me some bar graphs on her computer with data from the devices.
You can see each of these humps is a summer month, and this represents 3 years of data. So we have these very consistent patterns across 3 years, which is a lot of data. And then we see in July 2016, the battery died.
Yes, the battery died. Several of the bike counters, shown here in a video from the vendor, have gone more than a year with dead batteries. How did that happen, you ask? Because no agency had budgeted for the counter's maintenance. The units were purchased by the county with grant money, one-time dollars.
What's called an in-pavement loop detector.
Ryan has done her best to keep the counters in working order over the years. But that's not really her job. She's a professor, not a transportation agency.
It pencils out to something like $100 a unit per year. It's not that much money. It's just there's no steady stream of funding identified for it.
So it should be a lot more accurate in the future.
Chris Kluth says SANDAG has agreed to accept 10 of the units as gifts and to take over their maintenance.
For our 10, we want to make sure we're very confident in the data that we're getting from those. So there's a fair amount of work. Some of them will need to be reinstalled. Some will get some newer parts to put in there that are more durable.
Still, that leaves a few dozen more bike counters in need of adoption. Ryan says it's hard for one agency to take on extra costs when those costs originated somewhere else. But she says this data is really valuable.
I like to call it a transportation justice issue. I mean, who is walking and cycling? Younger people, people that are too poor to own cars, people who are trying to access transit. So they are kind of the forgotten modes, and unfortunately those travelers are in less safe environments.
Ryan says over the next few months, she'll be going city to city trying to convince their transportation officials to adopt the bike counters. And she's hoping each one of them can find a safe and loving home. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.